My name is Maria Shriver, and I am here as the honorary chair of this evening for the Kennedy School, the Institute of Politics. I think all of us are longing for a conversation that moves beyond screaming, moves beyond fighting, and actually illuminates what's going on in the country.
Tonight's Forum on the Road and a few more that we hope to be doing over the next couple of years wouldn't be possible without the generous support of David Rubenstein. And so if you could all join me in thanking him for his support. We're really excited to have this all-star panel. To my immediate left, David Axelrod, senior strategist to the President of the United States. To his immediate left, Lois Romano is most recently now with Politico, previously with the Newsweek Daily Beast and was with the Washington Post, also was an Institute of Politics fellow. To her immediate left, Matthew Dowd, who would like to be known, he is an independent now. Matthew has worked for both Democrats and Republicans, and I think what will be interesting as we dive into the discussion, in 2000 and 2004 was a senior strategist for President Bush, and one of the things I'd like for him and for David to discuss is what it's like running for re-election. And on the far left, for the first time ever, Alex Castellanos, who has been a longtime Republican media strategist. As he said, he's now retired and is a talking head and does corporate communications. His new company is called Purple Strategies, so that gives you an idea of the kind of work that they do. We've seen Alex on CNN, and he actually worked with Mitt Romney's campaign 4 years ago, so he has some insights into that. So tell us about what you saw in Ohio that maybe could give some insights to this
what
conversation.
People say, and I did this in Florida as well, I went into the crowds and I just spoke to voters after voter after voter. And basically what you hear is two things. You hear that people don't know what he believes, and they don't think he's passionate, and they don't think he's going to stand up to President Obama. And you hear that repeatedly, which is why some of the Republican base, they're not necessarily going for Santorum or for Gingrich because, you know, they're more to the right. It's because they think they're fighters.
And it leads me back to the larger point, which is all of these discussions are, to most people in this country, off point. Mm-hmm. We've got a fundamental challenge in this country, and it's been building not for 3 years, but for decades, and that is changes in our economy that have made the middle class fragile, that has made the sort of fundamental American compact that if you work hard, you can get ahead. If you act responsibly, you'll be rewarded. Those changes in our economy that go to, you know, technology, and changes in our economy that go to excesses in some sectors of our economy. But people feel that fragility, and they have that concern, right. And they want to know, what are we going to do as a country to rebuild this economy in a way in which our middle class is growing and not shrinking, in which people have a sense of opportunity, feel like their kids may have a better shot than they had, that they get a fair shake and a fair shot, and if they do the right things, that they can get ahead. That is the fundamental challenge of our time, and they want a serious discussion about this so that when we get off on weeks of abstractions, I think it's frustrating to a lot of people.
I believe until somebody actually stands up to the system and says, I no longer care about being head of the party, I'm head of the country, and I don't care if a Democratic congressman gets elected in X, Y, and Z, or a Democratic governor, or a Democratic senator. I'm here to lead the country and change this bitterness and change this divide. We're going to be sitting in this election after election until somebody stands up and says it doesn't matter about the parties anymore, the country and the institutions are failing, and we got to fix it. That's what I think. It's a lot more fun to take the hill than it is to hold the hill. I mean, it's much more fun. And we both ran campaigns and open races, and then you're faced with a re-elect in a very bitter environment with neither President Obama or President Bush was in any kind of great standing to run it. So it wasn't just like we could just like sit there and look out the window and say we got this thing in the bank. But some practical things that are much different that make it harder or more complicated is the centers of power or the centers of communication in the first campaign is very unified. And it's much more controlled and much easier. And actually the access to the candidate and the ability to sort of interact, ability to call audibles, all of that thing is much easier in the first round before somebody's president of the United States.
All split? What is the job of the president? What is it that you actually elect this fellow to do, or this woman? And you think about the great modern presidents, and who are they? Who comes to mind? D and R. Well, you think of Roosevelt. Here's a time when the country was kind of coming apart at the seams, 20% unemployment, 900 banks failing. The New Deal. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. We have John F. Kennedy. You know, at a time when Sputnik and everything went over, oh my God, you know, are we losing our place in the world? And John F. Kennedy said, no, new frontier. We're going to go to the moon in 10 years. They're the same guy. Two transformational figures. Ronald Reagan, again at a time when the country was lost. And, you know, is it going to end with a bang or a whimper? Reagan says, no, we have a rendezvous with destiny. They're going to end up on the ash heap of history. The same president. The job of a president is to be this transformational leader.
If I were just going to like throw out a name right now today, I would throw out Mike Huckabee.
For me, I would have Marco Rubio on speed dial.
And I'd keep an eye on Bob McDonnell out of Virginia.
Stephen Graham, Harvard College and Harvard Law School. Do you think, it looks like Mitt Romney is doing a campaign of numbers this time, where he's not worried about all the talk, he's trying to put together numbers for delegates. Do you think he's going to try to do that same thing in the presidential campaign and use that same strategy?
Well, I mean, he's putting together a numbers strategy because he has no other ability to win the nomination. I mean, to me, I think it's always a mistake. He needs to be aspirational. He's using arithmetic.
Run a thoroughly tactical campaign. And, you know, Alex worked with him 4 years ago. I think the absence of someone like Alex is being felt.
Karen Skelton, the Kennedy School, 1986. And I also worked in the Clinton White House during his re-election, and I just want to thank you guys for coming out here and having this great conversation. I want to ask a question about the primary calendar. California has 38 million people, most of whom never get a chance to participate in picking the nominee for their party. So I'm wondering if any of you think that the calendar should be shifted away from the couple 100,000 who start the trajectory of the process in Iowa, or if you think it works the way it is.
This is actually something I know a little bit about. When I was a Secretary of State, I chaired the Presidential Primary Reform Committee, and one of the difficulties with changing the primary role of Iowa and New Hampshire from what it is right now is that the folks in Iowa and New Hampshire care a great deal about being first, and the rest of the country doesn't care as much. My approach to reforming the system, what I always argue was, let's fix what comes after Iowa and New Hampshire.
And it is a brutal process, but it is a brilliant process in that these campaigns don't pick candidates, they make candidates. These guys are so much different than when they started. They get better, and they do get to go to, you know, every little nook and cranny of the country, and they do get a chance to listen, and they do get a chance to test themselves and grow, and we do stake them out on issues. So whether some process to ensure that everybody gets their turn at the head of the line or near the head of the line would be one thing, but I think the length overall of the process, you know, is training for, there's no manual for the job ahead. And this is, I think it's a pretty powerful way to do it.
I'm fairly confident this will be the first, but not the last, of the Forums on the Road in California. And we look forward to our next visit with all of you. Please join me in thanking our outstanding panel.